7 harsh truths about men over 40 I'd share if you were my little sister or my sister. It doesn't matter if you're little or older. Well, today we're going to dive into some truths about men, particularly in the over 40 category, because a lot of dating advice out there is geared to a younger demographic. It is geared to the biological components of a younger demographic, and it doesn't contemplate the emotional, physiological, experiences that people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, or even 70s experience. So, why is this such an important conversation, particularly talking about people over 40? Is because roughly, and this is anecdotal, I would say 75% of singles over 45 years old that are in the dating marketplace are most likely divorced. And if you haven't gone through a divorce, if you have gone through a divorce, you do know that the emotional effects of unraveling the tapestry of your life with another human being, how that can directly affect how you view relationships if you're older. So again, let me reframe this. My little sister, I'm talking to you. You're all my little sisters out there, my sisters out there. I'm sharing this with you because many of you go into the dating marketplace very naive. You go in with some sort of fantasy projection of the way relationships are. You go in with this traditional expectation of the way that men are. And I'm here to give you the harsh truths of the way men are, the way women are, and the way relationships either fail or flourish when we hit midlife. Did you hear me say fail or flourish? You know, it's interesting to me. I would say my average client is roughly about 55 years old, give or take, on average. And I would say, on average, I think the average person has experienced 3, if not 4 relationships by the time they've hit 55 years old that lasted more than 3 months. And many of them have had relationships that last over a year. Now, why is this important to know? Because if you've had 4 relationships and didn't work out, you basically have 100% ending rate. I'm going to say failure rate or ending rate. And many of you don't go backwards to connect the dots as to why the relationship ended. Now, here's what I've observed from men and women alike. The reason why every relationship ends is because of this. Each one is pointing the finger at the other person. He was a narcissist. She was a gold digger. He was this. She was that. Very few human beings take ownership on their part for the ending of a relationship. And why this is so critically important is if you actually look at all failed relationships and start to figure out the common denominators as to why relationships don't flourish, maybe by reverse engineering it, you can look at it from a different prism, from the different angle of the prism, to determine how to actually create a successful relationship going forward. So today we're going to connect the dots backwards a little bit. And towards the end of this conversation, I will share with you what I believe is the best entry point to create success for your relationship. So now you're my little sister. I'm going to tell you, out there in the dating marketplace, it's the Hunger Games. It's the Hunger Game. It is practically a fight for the death. I'm being a little bit exaggerated here, but my hope is by reviewing this information, you put the odds in your favor. As the line goes from the Hunger Games, may the odds forever be in your favor. Because I wish I could be there for you on a first date with a guy and I'd have the shotgun pulled out into his face and I say, what's your intentions with my little sister? So this leads us to the first harsh truth. And again, if I could have that shotgun out, I'd be pointing at a guy's face and saying, what's your intentions with my little sister? The harsh truth is that men after divorce, particularly, are relatively clueless about the purpose of a relationship. Let me repeat that. They are relatively clueless as to the purpose of a relationship. If you have not seen my chart called the 3 types of people actively dating, by the way, you'll note this says this is not a fact, it's merely an opinion. I would say roughly 20% of the population are what I call users. They seek a short-term gain. Love bombers, players, gold diggers, entitled, selfish people only care about themselves. So, little sister, that's about 20% out there. Now, I say over here that 20% are what I call grower builders. These are seeking long-term commitment, emotionally grown up, good relationship skills. They have their act together. That's about 20% of the population. The vast majority of men and women alike are what I call spenders. They seek companionship, connection, and sex. They have no direction. They're uncertain. They're fearful. They usually have a dysfunctional life. They want to spend time with someone. That's why they're called spenders. And these are also known as placeholder relationships. Why is this so critically important, my little sister? Is because you've been indoctrinated that all men are the leaders of the relationship. You must submit to a man. I was watching a show called Reign, which is about Mary, Queen of Scots, and it's about the Queen of Scotland in France, who's about to marry Francis, the king's youngest or only son at this point. Oldest son, at this point. Firstborn son, I should say, because he also had what's known as a bastard son. But what's fascinating when you witness these historic shows about how women were treated as property. Women were treated as property, and men had all the control in a relationship because they own the property. We are now in completely different times. Ladies, you are not chattel or property anymore. You have every right to speak your truth. It is not a man's job to lead the relationship. In fact, I'm here to say you are in charge of your relationship destiny. It is not a man's job. And most men after divorce are rather clueless. Many of them are gun shy about even considering a significant relationship. And let's think about this for a second. What are the different layers of relationship? Well, first, there's hooking up. That's a relationship of sorts. Then there's situationships. Those are where you guys are spending time together and it's not labeled, it's not defined. Okay. Then there are friends with benefits, which seems to be one of the most common types of relationships today. The sad part is, ladies, many of you are in friends with benefits relationships, but you don't know that's what it is. I'm going to repeat that. You don't actually know that's what it is. And I'll explain why in a second. Then there's casual relationships. These are relationships where there's an agreement to monogamy, there's an agreement to exclusivity, but there's no real direction for the relationship. And lastly, there's the serious relationship. And those are ones where there's an actual intent of something significant. These are relationships where people are interested in either living with somebody or getting married. Now, I'm sure you've been told you should never ask the question to a man, what are you looking for in a relationship? And I agree. It's a nebulous question. What are you looking for? I'm here to invite you to ask the question a different way. What does a relationship look like for you? Let me repeat that. Someone write this in the chat box. Instead of what are you looking for in a relationship, I'm inviting you to ask, what does a relationship look like for you? And I want you to even go a step further and say, what does commitment mean to you? What does commitment mean to you? And what does commitment look like for you? These are very powerful questions. And ladies, before that penis ever gets inside the vagina, you should know the answer to this question. Furthermore, now again, I'm a bit Puritan here, okay? Let me just say that you're my little sister. I don't want you to get burned. I would have the shotgun at the guy's face and go, what's your intention with my little sister? That there's a consequence for this person to be out of integrity with you. And it starts right from the very beginning to assess, is he a user? Is he a spender? Or is he a grower builder? Number two, men often believe sex is intimacy. Men often believe sex is intimacy. Now, interesting enough, women often believe that emotional connection is intimacy. Well, I'm here to tell you, my little sister, emotional connection and sex are intimacy. Just because a man wants sex, because we are driven that way, we are biologically driven that way, doesn't make us wrong, doesn't make us bad people. This is how we connect physically, through the physical connection. Women tend to, and again, these are tend to, it's not absolutes. Women tend to connect at an emotional level. Well, intimacy is both physical and emotional intimacy, and men are rather clueless when it comes to emotional intimacy. This is why, ladies, I invite you to read this book, Emotional Intimacy by Robert Masters. So, because look, you guys think just because you can vomit feelings that you're actually being emotionally intimate with another human being. And let me be clear, as a coach, I witness this every single day in my coaching practice. Women oftentimes don't know how to identify their feelings. They say a lot of words, but they're and in a way that can be seen, heard, and understood to another human being. Men are clearly terrible at that. We know this. Why do we know this? Because women initiate 70% of the divorces due to a lack of emotional connection in their relationship. I'm inviting you to read this. And again, I'll share with you something towards the end that encourages a healthy relationship. By the way, if this is resonating with you right now, do me a favor, hit that like button on this video. But more importantly, if you want some support, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link right here, Jonathan Asley Coaching. All right, little sister, number 3, many men are scared about their financial well-being. See, I recognize you've all been programmed that men are the provider protectors. Well, here's a reality that we must all face, especially for those men that are in their 50s, 60s, and even 70s. There's a significant percentage of the population here in the United States of men in this age bracket that don't have the financial resources to take care of 2 people. Many men after divorce, in many cases, are subsidizing another home already. So many men are actually, when I say the word scared, they might be scared or they might be reluctant, or they may not have the resources to take care of another household. I know you've been indoctrinated that men must pay for all the dates and they must wine and dine us and they must climb to the highest room of the tallest tower. I'm here to say that a significant percentage of men, not all, are struggling in this capacity. So again, since this conversation is for the over 40 crowd, I'm just here to encourage that 2 incomes are better than 1. And just recognize that not all men are in a position to take care of 2 households. Some of them are already doing so, and they may not have the additional resources. So they might have a reservation. Some have gotten burned. I know one man who made $500,000 a year. And he eventually married a woman and he wanted all of her money, the monies that she made. And he said, nobody gets a free ride. And this guy made $500,000 a year. And he was very extravagant in the way his lifestyle was, but he got so burned in his divorce that he expected a financial contribution. I'm not here to say he's right or wrong. And please don't judge that person. I'm just here to say that if you want to understand men, understand that from a financial perspective, many men are not this chivalrous provider protector types that many of you have been indoctrinated into believe. Number 4, most men and women are rather clueless about their true feelings. Most men, and as I said this a few moments ago, just because a woman can vomit feelings doesn't mean that they actually don't know how to identify. Here is a list of feelings. I want you to Google this. This is the Hoffman process list of feelings. Somebody write this in the chat box. Hoffman process list of feelings. Do you realize that very few humans actually identify their feelings and then are able to articulate them? How they might feel about you, how they might feel about the relationship, how they might feel about themselves, how they might feel about their professional life, how they might feel about their financial health, how they might feel about their physical health, how they might feel about their sexual performance. Most couples bury true intimate conversations. And there's this sad belief that if we if we shove it under the rug long enough, magic fairy dust will come down from the ceiling and solve all of our relationship problems. I say this because I'm guilty of this. I am guilty of believing that if I do nothing, something would change. That's why I got divorced almost two decades ago. It amazes me how many humans have. And by the way, if you're listening to the audio, that was duct tape I put over my mouth. How many human beings, men and women alike, have duct tape over their mouths? Because they're rather clueless. And as I said earlier, many of them don't know how to express their feelings. It doesn't make men out to be bad or women out to be bad. But it requires, remember I said in the beginning of this broadcast, to reverse engineer, think of what causes divorces, what causes of ending a relationship. And if you can kind of connect the dots, you go, okay, I'm going to start with understanding that this will happen if I don't do this, and I don't do this, and I don't do this, and I don't do this. It will end in the ending of a relationship. Number 5, love bombing doesn't mean he cares about you. Oh my God, you're the most amazing woman I ever met. Oh my God, it's so easy to talk to. Oh my God, you're the most beautiful woman. You are unlike any woman I've ever been with. Oh my gosh, I could see us traveling together. I could see us living together some point. You just make me feel so good. You are so wonderful. You're a class act. You're one of a kind. Here's what I heard when I said that. Wah, 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 wah. Does anyone remember the teacher in Charlie Brown? It was illegible, undetectable what was said, excuse me, because it's just a bunch of words. Words do not mean care. Words don't generate care. Actions generate care. And if you're my little sister and you're being love bombed, and sadly, I have a dear friend of mine. She is just being love bomb up the yin yang, and she's bought this guy's line, hook, line, and sinker, and he's admitted he's still married. He claims to be separated, but I don't buy it. And he lives in another state, and she's bought this guy's bullshit hook, line, and sinker, because you know why? The women susceptible to love bombing are the ones who genuinely, on some level, don't blank. Self-love. People that are susceptible or love bombing is because they want to hear it from another human being. My book is called What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, and Spiritual Work. By the way, there's links below to get a copy of all the books I recommend. The most susceptible women to love bombing are the ones that don't love themselves that much. Most of us don't fully love ourselves. Believe me, I am riddled with insecurities related to my worth, related to whether or not I'm, I can go on and on about insecurities. I'm aware of them. I work on them. That's what's called doing the work. But sadly, we are here in the United States, we are suckling on the nipple of, I need you to love me so I can feel good about myself. I need you to love me. I need you to be in my life so I can feel good about myself. Sadly, so many of us are suckling on that nipple. And it breaks my heart to witness. And she's going to get burned. I can say it with a 99.9% certainty, but sure, just like in Dumb and Dumber, it's 1 in a million. So you say I have a chance. All right. Number 6. If their basic needs are being met, if a man's basic needs being met, they rarely make any additional effort in a relationship. If you're giving them food, if you're giving them sex, if you're allowing them to watch TV when sports are going on, and I'm being tongue in cheek, if his basic needs are met, chances are there isn't going to be much additional effort. And these are the things that you need to be aware of. So how do we reverse engineer this? We'll talk about this in a second. And number 7, men want to be loved, but they've been so conditioned to be stoic, to be closed, to be free from emotional connection, that they're afraid to actually open up because that's perceived as weakness. It's perceived as weakness. Most men have been so conditioned, particularly the late baby boomers and the Gen Xers are so conditioned to be close, to be emotionally unavailable, to be avoidant. And they want to love. Every human being wants to be loved deeply on the inside. And yet they're afraid also because they might be perceived as weak. And by the way, women will shame men for being vulnerable. Women will shame men for being vulnerable. So many men are reluctant to open up. What's the antidote to all of this, folks? Before you're physically intimate with someone, do me a favor. For yourself, read this book, 8 Dates by Doctors John and Julie Gottman. It's not the perfect reverse engineered book. It's not the perfect reverse engineered book, but this will give you insight into the mechanics of a healthy, happy relationship, number one. Number two, I want you to read the book, The 7 Principles of Making a Marriage Work. Take out the word marriage and replace it with relationship. But then you'll begin to understand the mechanics to a healthy, happy relationship. And another book I'm inviting you all to read by Barbara DeAngelis, Are You the One for Me? Knowing Who's Right and Avoiding Who's Wrong. Ladies, if you want to avoid pain, then understand the mechanics of a healthy, happy relationship and then prepare yourself by asking those deeper, radically honest questions. And if you need some support with that, that's my area of expertise. I am so blessed. My clients, the minute they make the investment in the program I have, I get calls each week. Jonathan, I met a great guy. Jonathan, I met a great guy. Jonathan, I met a great guy. And they know the difference because you know what? They're not operating from this old programming. They're operating from a place of sovereignty. But Jonathan, aren't I supposed to sit back in my feminine energy and just let men lead? No, you are in charge of your relationship destiny, my little sister. Don't you ever give your power away to another human being, because the relationships that are the most successful are the ones that are co-created together and not the traditional norm of one up, one down, women below men. Is this sinking in? I want to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. I'd like to hear what you have to say. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And also on your phone, hit that little bell so you can be notified on YouTube. Hit that little setting. And last but not least, if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below to schedule a discovery call. There's a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery, where you can have direct access to me on a regular basis through social media. You can also follow me on Instagram, get the books I recommend, and also my dating vows as well. All right, those who know my live format know it's time for Q&A. If you have a question, there's a little chat box down there. Write the word question, then post the question there after. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to my son. Scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley. That's a picture of him in there in the Obey shirt. He's my son who passed away over 6 years ago. In his honor, we donate to causes like the Hoffman Process, Insight Institute, and scholarships to coaching as well. And our goal tonight is $50. So I'd appreciate love. If every one of you donated, if 25 of you donated $2, we'd have some money to donate tonight. So that's what I'm searching for, is $2 from 25 of you tonight. All right, let's see what kind of question. Oh, and also, if you want to join the hot seat, that allows you to talk to me directly right now. I post a link right there. It's to StreamYard, and you can ask me questions live on camera, and I'll try to be as nice as possible. Power of Chi says, hello there, from your little sister, another mister. Thank you so much. Alfie says, you are not only perfect relationship teacher, but you are my best English teacher. Greetings. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I want to just give props to one sweetheart of a lady, Debbie. You are just a kind, beautiful, loving human being. How much you donate to the Connor Asley Scholarship Fund. I just want to give you a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug. Okay. Thank you so much. Maria. Can Can you make a casual relationship into a situation or a serious relationship? Yeah, cut off sex and say you want to get married. Hey, I know men that do, I know women who do that. Say, look, I'm going to cut you off sexually until we get married. In other words, it really has the man put his money where his mouth is. Now, am I recommending that? No, I'm not necessarily recommending that. You do it through serious conversation. You do it with a plan. You talk about moving in together. You talk about what's the purpose of our relationship. What does commitment look like to you? Ask for timetables. Folks, I'm here to say, at our age, we don't have time to fuck around. If two people like each other, they should consider moving in together within the first year. I know that goes against a lot of, it might go against some of your perceptions, but I'm here to say, look, we don't have time to fuck around. If two people are fucking on a regular basis, then you better have serious conversations about, is this a serious relationship or not? And then put your money where your mouth is. That's my expectation anyway. I know that goes, oh my God, there's going to be so many men that will disagree because guess what? They're getting the, okay, I know many of you hate this analogy. Why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? There's so many people getting sex that literally with no investment whatsoever. If you're my little sister, you don't give up the vagina until he's actually proven he's serious. Okay. Let's keep going. Oh, I want to thank Roller Girl for that $2 super sticker. Thank you so much. And Sandy just gave us a $5 super sticker. So that means our goal rest of the evening is $24. Billy Holt is in the house. Question, I finally paid him a nice chunk of money for his services and blocked him. Can you congratulate me? Well, why did you give him a big chunk of money? Was that for sex? I guess if you were paying for sex and you didn't like it anymore, I guess you did the right thing. I guess. I don't know what you were big chunk of money he were for his services and then you blocked him. I don't get it. Doesn't make sense to me. All right. Let's keep going. Oh, Lee's in the house. I missed this question. Why are men willing to nest and stay in an unhealthy marriage? Is it the fear of losing money? That's one reason why men will stay in unhappy marriage, for the fear of losing money. Also, men are fucking lazy. If their basic needs are being met. And by the way, not every man's need is sex, but if they're getting food, a roof over their head, and a cleaning person, you know, a cleaning person and a roof over the help with the roof over their head and food, a lot of men will just, they've given up. They've just given up. They don't care because the guy didn't care about an emotional connection to begin with. What do you think magic fairy dust is going to change 20 years later? You got to build intimacy right from the very beginning if you want to have any chance for success. All right, let's keep going. Okay. Debbie says, that's what I'm saying. I'm not playing any games. Okay, Debbie, I'm going to share something with you. You can tell a man, I'm not playing games. This is what they hear. Wah, 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 wah. It's just rhetoric. It means nothing to a man. It means nothing to a person. I'm not into playing games. So what? It means nothing. And I'm just, by the way, Debbie, you know I love you. So what I mean is you don't need to say it. It's superfluous. It's irrelevant. You don't need to ever say it to someone. Evie says, how do I get a man to open up emotionally? You know, here's an interesting question. Ask a man to tell you about a time that he cried. If you ask me that question, it's easy. My son passed away. That's one of 100 times, if not 1,000 times I've cried. Tell me about a time where you cried. Tell me about a time where you were sad. Tell me about a time you felt insecure. Tell me about a time you were scared. And if they say, I don't want to talk about it, then they're really not that emotionally deep. Because it's you know, for an emotionally mature man, he can answer that. By the way, emotionally mature man who desires you outside of the penis and the vagina. In other words, he's not trying to have sex with you, okay? This isn't the beginning stage of a relationship. But you can ask this on a first date. Tell me about a time you cried. And maybe you start to open his heart. Maybe that ice around his heart will begin to melt. Is you have to start probing in the things that make us feel emotionally connected with our heart. Fear, sadness, shame. So and that's my invitation, to get a man to open up emotionally. It's not about him sharing his feelings about you. It's about him connecting with his heart. Let me repeat that. It's about him connecting with his heart. All right, I'm going through the list. Eve says, Jonathan, will this be on a replay? All of my videos are on replay. Okay. Let's see what else. Oh, Art and Soul gave us a $5 super sticker. Thank you for the love. I appreciate it. Let's keep going here. Let's see. Stormy wrote down, caption, in case you forgot what they are or don't know what you're feeling. Yes, most human beings don't know how to identify their feelings. They identify thoughts. Let me give you an example. I feel like going to the store. It's not a feeling. That's a thought. The feeling might be, I'm hungry and I'd like to go to the store. That's a feeling. I feel hunger, okay? But when we think of emotions, we think of words like, I'm sad. Can we get out of that? I feel like getting out of the house. That's not a feeling. That's a thought. I feel sad. Is it okay if we go for a drive together so I can, be uplifted or something like that? You see the difference? People use the word feel to describe thoughts in their lives and not their actual feelings. Bauer Chi wants to remind everyone they used to snort magic fairy dust back in the 80s. Well, people are suckling on that nipple. All right, let's just keep going. Thank you, Evie. I appreciate that. Oh, Annika's in the house. We haven't seen you in a little while. Thanks for being on. When do men actually start building emotional connection? Would it be before or after intimacy? Does anyone remember the movie Something About Mary? There's a scene where Ben Stiller's friend Wiggy is telling Ben Stiller to go masturbate before his date with Cameron Diaz. And he says it's because right after ejaculation, a man is most connected with his feelings. And to some degree, there's truth to that. When a man physically connects with a woman, that's about the closest many men get to feeling an emotional connection. It's the men who do personal development, self-help, spiritual work, the men that have done some deep introspective work, the men that know how to identify their feelings are the ones that are more emotionally connected to their well-being. Also, their capacity to communicate how they feel comes from a very emotionally immature place. See, sadly, most humans communicate in what's known as a violent way, a very confrontational way. If you haven't read the book by Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, I highly recommend reading this book so you can learn a more compassionate way to communicate. This takes practice. This takes learning to learn all of this. So what do my clients do? By the way, each one of my clients, when they work with me, they get workbooks each week. My clients actually put together a binder of all the work we do and share it with the men that they're dating to create conversation, to create dialogue, to create intimacy. Also, you can start with something like this. Go on Amazon right now, type in best self intimacy cards. Someone put that in the chat box. Look at these are great little cards to begin conversations. It's kind of like oh God, what's that? Okay, here's a question. On a scale from 1 to 10, how nervous would you be if I started to look through your phone. Oh my God, I love that. On a scale from 1 to 10, how nervous would you be to look through my phone? I would be 10 being the highest. I'd be a 3. Not that I have nothing to hide. People can look through my phone. It's just if something, I do have some personal things in there, but I wouldn't have any problem sharing my phone with anyone. So intimacy cards. These are a great way to begin those conversations. Okay. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, power chi goes back to what I was talking about, known as post-nut clarity. That's when after a man ejaculates is probably his most vulnerable and clear-headedness. When we are on the hunt for sex, the garbage that can come out of our mouth is amazing. We are professional con people when we're on the hunt. I mean, the shit that can come out of a man's mouth is hysterical. And I know this because the shit all gets sucked back in the minute they ejaculate. For a lot of men, not all men. Best self on Amazon. Exactly. Best self intimacy cards. Exactly. Best self intimacy cards. All right. Oh, Annika just gave us a $5 super sticker. Thank you for the love. Does anyone want to join the hot seat? Here's a link to join me. I'd love to have some live conversation with someone right now. Regina says, I don't think you should look through a man's phone, as you either trust them or you don't. I believe that we should have inherent trust. We should have inherent trust. Unfortunately, there are a lot of secretive people out there, a lot of secretive people. So, I have mixed feelings about that. You should feel trust, but I have a friend of mine who found out this. She lived with a man for 5 years. They had what I thought was a perfect relationship. And for at least a year, he had been habitually cheating on her with hookers and other people. And she had no clue until she went through his phone. And this relationship ended. I don't know. I sadly, there are a lot of people that live double lives. And as well as you could live with them and be with them 24/7. I don't know. I mean, I have mixed feelings on that because I believe in absolute trust. In my last 2 relationships, our phones were out in front of our faces all the time. I don't think either one of us would have had a problem looking through each other's phones. But usually when you have a suspicion, sometimes you need to validate whether or not it's made up in your head or it's legit. McCoy. Yes, they do. Double lives online. I'm shocked by how many. Sadly, this is, I think the last 30 years due to technology has fucked up our society big time. There's blessings with smartphones and the internet, and there's also equally the yin and yang of it all, the curse. Jess says, after I hooked up with my latest fling, I asked if interested in a second round. He said, not right now. I'm just going with the flow. Okay. So I hope that this fling serves you. Just remember that sometimes people get attached and it's very difficult to detach once you biologically have connected with another human being. Let's keep. Hey, listen, I need some questions. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up early. I need some love. Give me some love. Give me some questions. I need some material to work with. Someone post a question. I don't like begging for it. This is the whole point. It's not about you guys having a chat. It's about asking me questions. Okay? I don't care what. Ask me a personal question. If that makes it easier, ask me some personal question. I do my best to answer them all. All right, here we go. Power Achieve. Question, have you seen Netflix How to Build a Sex Room? If so, what do you think of the different couples and their sense of exploration? No, I have not seen that. I might check it out. I don't know. You know, I really am annoyed by a lot of reality TV, but that's why I fast forward through a lot of shit. Um, so no, I have not seen it. And Regina, no, I did not see your question. If you could post it, repost it, I'd really appreciate it. All right, McCoy is back in the house. Have you heard about 3D sites? If so, what are your thoughts on the lifestyle? 3D. Hey, Google, what is 3D sites?
Here are the top search results.
Oh my God, there's so many different. I don't know what you're looking for. 3D archery, 3D this, 3D that. Could you be more specific? Is it a dating site? If it's a dating site, I'm gonna speculate that it means meeting in person. I mean, I'd like to have some more intel. Again, if you have a question for me, whether it's personal or not, please post a question. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up early tonight. And I want to go the full hour like I usually do. VI Simmons just gave us $5 super sticker. Thank you for the love. Coward, she wants to know, is that VR or the metaverse? I've never heard of 3D sites. Yes, please give us a little more intel as to what you're talking about. Debbie wants to know if the power sex room is like 50 Shades of Grey. Again, we need, oh, here we go. Brown Canetta's in the house. Big hugs to you, sweetheart. So if the person you like has affection to you and they are shy, then they come blank, we, and stare at you like getting over fear. I'm not shy. Like getting over, okay. So if the person you like has affection to you and they are shy, you know, many people struggle because they don't know how to identify their feelings or articulate their feelings. I said this in the beginning of the broadcast. I've said it many times today. And oftentimes shy people have put walls up because there's an internal fear going on. There's an internal resistance going on. How you break through that is through little by little building trust with them, little by little building trust. Use these intimacy cards as the conversation starter and do one after another, after another, after another. And when a person builds trust with you, they feel safer to open up. You know, the interesting thing, my ex-wife, I used to say, thought was shy, and she was very much, she wouldn't talk. And then later, she just wouldn't shut the fuck up. And I'm being tongue in cheek. So some people just need to feel safe. And that's what I believe is going on in those cases. Regina's back in the house. When a man contacts you on a dating app and asks if we could be friends, what does that most likely mean? Well, the word friend, okay, this is a great question because the word friends means something different to each person. So what does that, I like the way Jerry Seinfeld thought what a friend was. A friend is a person that helps you move furniture. A friend takes you to the airport and they get up at 4 a.m. to take you to an airport. So what does that mean, friendship? It could just simply means I'd like to begin getting to know you to see if there's potential between the two of us. In other words, without the pressure of dating. I actually not too long ago I reconnected with a woman online who we met years ago, and we agreed to meet. And I said, do you mind if we don't call this a date? Can we just be two people curious to meet each other? Can we take the pressure of the word date off the table and just meet each other just to see if there's a connection there? And she goes, I love that idea. Because I don't want to be put in the position of even though I'm going to plan on where we meet, I don't want to be put in the position of the expectation that it's my job to entertain this person. I don't know if I even like this person well enough to entertain them. So that's what dating oftentimes implies. So the same token, it just means that he wants to connect without the pressure of dating. And then you can see if you want to date from there. That's my invitation anyway. Love, life, love preserved is in the house. Question: I felt a connection with an emotionally mature man, but he would not date me since I'm not divorced yet. He is now in a relationship and said we can't be friends anymore. Do I give up? Let me ask you in reverse. If you were in a relationship with him, would you want a woman trying to get him? Just tell me how that would feel if you're in a relationship with this man, but you know there's another woman that doesn't want to give up on him. If you can answer that question for me, and the answer is yes, you would want her to do that, then you can by all means do whatever you want. But let me just tell you from my perspective, that's a fuck thing to do to another sister, so to speak. If you know he's in a relationship with someone, you move on. Annika asks, do men actually express their needs or do we ask them? I mean, beyond basic needs. Men traditionally don't ask for their needs. And by the way, women traditionally have duct tape over their mouth when it comes to needs. Most human beings don't ask for their needs. Men's basic need is sex. But after that, they usually, well, they might command their needs. If men treat you like property, they might command their needs. But I guess the question is, do we ask them? Yeah, you can ask them, you know, what can I do to make your life better? What can I do to make our relationship better? Is there anything I can do to make our relationship better for you? Is there anything that you think that we can do together to make our relationship? Yeah, ask questions. Be curious. Come from a place of curiosity. That's my invitation for you. Bump, 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 bump. Let's keep going. Mary Stewart says Marianne Sennett says that's a personal question I've had for you ever since reconnecting with somebody. There's no question there. Okay. I thought there was a personal question there. Maria says, I love that idea. I'm happy to hear that. Maureen says, has anyone ever heard of the app Threads? Is it safe to use? I believe Instagram has Threads. So I haven't heard of a dating app called Threads, but I know that Instagram has an app called Threads. I'm assuming it's safe as any other app is. Rob Maria. An old boyfriend came back, lives with me. He wants friends with no sex. I want what we had and said so. He was like wounded from the past and reluctant. What do I do? So you have an old boyfriend living with you. He wants to be friends and no sex. What do you do? What do you want? Ask yourself, I want what we had. Well, if you ask him for what you want and he doesn't want the same things, then ask yourself, does it make sense to stay in this dynamic? But humans are stupid because humans believe magic fairy dust will just change everything. Ask him for your needs. And if he doesn't meet your needs, then ask yourself, should you stay in this relationship? Because magic fairy dust won't change anything. Debbie is in the house. Are some men afraid to approach a strong, independent woman? Well, I guess it depends on the context, okay? You know, if there isn't a signal from that strong, independent woman of interest to that man, in other words, the hanky hasn't been dropped, then he might be reluctant for the same reason he might be reluctant to any woman. He doesn't know if it's going to be successful. In other words, he might get rejected. Has nothing to do with her strength and independence. Now, strong, independent women also can be very controlling, domineering, criticizing, dismissive. You know, there's a lot of things that come also with strength and independence. So he might see those qualities in a woman going, hey, I'm not going to approach that woman. She's just a gigantic pain in the ass, even though she might be strong and independent. You know, I know in my own personal life, I've been reluctant to approach a strong, independent woman just because I might not be what she wants. So I'm aware that oftentimes strong, independent women want men that are even stronger and more independent and more financially successful. And I might not fit that role in some cases. Mainly because I think I'm a man of the heart. And when I think of strong people, sometimes they lack heart. So it depends. But again, if she's given the vibe and he's attracted to her, it's not going to stop him. Only a man who's absolutely insecure will be stopped by that, but he's insecure, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that an insecure man is not interested in a strong, independent woman. But a strong, independent man isn't afraid, but he certainly wants some evidence that there's interest on her part. Faithful and True says, I'm new to long distance relationship, met online 2.5 months ago. Sexy talk, share family life. We've had third in-person date soon. We communicate well. Do I turn up the stockings, racy undies, or no? We have had third in-person date soon. So you've seen him twice physically. I mean, I guess the question is, are you going to explore a relationship with this guy? And if you are, then sex is part of the decision-making process. If you guys are exploring a long-term serious relationship, then sex is part of the decision-making process. Ariel's in the house. When I keep going over to men's homes to date, I feel used, but his home is peaceful. Lives by himself and have 2 kids, mom, and 3 dogs. I just don't feel balanced, but then it also makes sense. 2 kids. Wait a minute. This is a married guy? Is he married or is it his mother that lives with them? And you're going over to his house because he's lazy and he doesn't want to get in his car to your house. He figures if you're easy enough to come to his house and he's not going to, by the way, men should make effort to come to your home just as like you should make effort to go to their home. And if it's always one-sided, he's a lazy motherfucker. Zen Maiden. I want to ask Jonathan, what do you think about opening up first before the man does once you've gotten beyond the first few months of committed relationship? Well, by the way, opening up should start on the very first date. You should be open. You should be vulnerable. You should be authentic. You should be transparent. You shouldn't have to wait months to open up. I guess the question is, what are you opening up to? I mean, don't divulge a secret to a total stranger, but start expressing your needs, wants, and desires. Start describing the kind of relationship you're looking for. Describe what commitment looks like to you. Pull out these intimacy cards and have conversations right from the very first date. But Jonathan, I've been told this is the way I should date. How's your day going? Did you have a good day? I hope you had a good day. Tell me about your day. Is your day wonderful? Oh, I wish you'd have a wonderful day. You fucking human beings, all you talk about is what you do in the day, and you don't talk about the heart. If you want to get real intimacy going, start speaking from the heart. Great. Billy Holt says, the word is trouble, not pain in the ass. I'm old school. Pain in the ass stands for PETA. Pain in the ass. T says, yes, Jonathan, I agree with you. I'd never cross boundaries with a man who tells me he's in a relationship. That's a hard no. Exactly. Gamer Christine, why are most men turned off by a sexually aggressive woman? A man wants the chase. If you don't let him chase them, they lose interest. I have not had sex in 4 years. I just want to get laid. Hey, any woman that pursues me sexually, if I'm attracted to her, she pretty much gets to win. Although now I want a significant relationship. So I'm going to say no to that. But trust me, years ago, I have no problem with a woman saying, I want to fuck your brains out. And if I'm attracted to her, I would say yes, the old version of Jonathan. Why are most men are not turned off by a woman who express sex unless they're not attracted to that person, or they genuinely want a heart connection, or there might be married or some other reason. But It's when you say most men, I might say some men might turned off by a sex. Oh, by the way, I did go out with a woman once. Oh my God. She was a nymphomaniac. It scared the fuck out of me. She was so, I mean, it was mostly she wanted her own pleasure. So it was kind of turn off at the same time. But boy, was she a nymphomaniac, and that freaked me out. Jess, question. What are your thoughts on Sadie Khan and the new psychs on relationships? I find that they tend to always focus on high value subjects. Okay, my opinion on Sadie Khan, and I believe she mirrors this. She has a very narrow focused practice. She works in Dubai with incredibly not high value subjects, but very wealthy subjects. Number one. As far as relationship hacks or new hacks or psych hacks, I think it's a very skewed perspective on the world, and they just don't jive with the way I view. I work with the general public. They're working with a skewed, well, Sadie Khan's working in a very high net worth population, so her views are based on that, and she openly admits that. Now, a lot of her content actually can apply to what we'll call the average person. By the way, here in the United States, only 5% of the population make over $250,000. The 95% of people, 80% of Americans barely have enough money in the bank to survive if they were out of work for a year. So she's talking to a whole different demographic of young women that are going after rich men. Is my opinion anyway. Linda says, I don't think I've ever heard this question on your channel. How do you find out if a man is not well endowed before it's too late? I've had an issue with micro junk. I don't know how you'd find out that. Answer the question. I guess you must have a radar for it. The average man's penis size is 5.5, 6 inches. That's the average, which means there are some men that are bigger and some men that are smaller. I don't know how to answer that for you. I don't know. I guess you can ask, but I don't think a person's going to be honest with you. You might want to grab his junk, you might want to see a dick pic. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. Because I guess the question is, men can please you in a variety of other ways outside of the penis. I'm sure for a lot of us men who are in midlife that are struggling with ED anyway, my tongue is much harder than my penis many of the time. So I don't know how to answer that question. All right. This is probably going to be our last question of the evening. Sandy says, I finally ended my 7-year relationship. Wasn't going anywhere. When I met someone, now I push them away. What is my problem? Well, your 7-year relationship ended and you're hurt. It's very natural to be gun shy, to be reluctant. You want a relationship, but you got to heal. So ask yourself, what positive things about myself did I learn in this relationship? How have I healed from this relationship? Have I properly grieved from this relationship? What was good about the relationship? What am I grateful for? Did I go through the grieving process? And if you've gone through the grieving process and your desire for a relationship exceeds the fear and the pain, that is when you're ready. Someone write that in the chat box. When your desire for a relationship exceeds the fear and the pain. Right now, the pain is ruling you. The pain is ruling you. When your desire for a relationship exceeds the fear and pain. Okay, Sandy? I hope that helps. Ariel said I read her question wrong. I am so sorry. He lives by himself, so his home is peaceful. Mine is 2 kids, mom and dogs. Oh, got it. I am sorry about that. I misunderstood your question. Well, I don't know really your question. Is it, how do you make it work? He's got to be able, so he's got to be able to accept your life of kids, mom, and dog. Okay. Because you come as a full package. If he can't accept the full package, then it's going to be very problematic to build something substantial in this relationship. So I would try to assess whether or not he's accepted the full package of you versus those times you go out on dates and have sex at his home. That's just my perception anyway. Just remember, a lot of men struggle accepting other people's, the package. Many people struggle accepting the total package. Listen, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this conversation, the 7 hard truths about men over 40 that I'd share with my sister. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to get notified. And also go on your phone and hit the settings to be notified as well. Also, if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery, where you can have direct access to me on a regular basis. There's a link to follow me on Instagram. There's a link to get the books I recommend. There's a link to get my dating vows and even join my mailing list. Hey, we'd still like some donations to the Connor Asley Scholarship Fund. Just simply $2 from 25 of you right now, and we'd be able to donate $50 to either a scholarship or to places like the Hoffman Process or Insight Institute, which helps people heal from their childhood wounds and their adult traumas. Hey, I want to thank everyone for being on today. And I want to reach into the camera and give you a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug of appreciation. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a big hug of love as well. I'm going to ask you to turn to a friend, a pet, a teddy bear, or pillow, and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. I want to thank Debbie and everyone who donated, and Annika and Faithful and Holly and Billy and Natty and Regina and Roller Girl and Maria and McCoy and Power of Chi and LA and Cindy and Jerry and Charming Girl and Faithful True and Sundancer and everybody who donate. Big hugs. Thanks for the love. Wishing you all a super duper wonderful day. Be well. Thanks. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.